Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week.
Yes. We're kicking off Monday with you, talking about some real things, as usual, which we love to do, right? And we love to hear where you are listening from. So please put in the chat, where are you calling in from? Say hello to us.
Yes, of course, we love to know that just because then we can compare things.
Hmm.
This weekend it was like high 80s here in Minnesota, which is way too
Oh,
warm for
really?
October. Oh,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Wow.
Today, highs in the 60s.
Yeah. Yeah. Today is a lot
I'm
cooler.
feeling like the Minnesota love is coming through now.
Yes, it was. It was hot, and then a lot. I could tell a lot cooler this morning. I think it was in the 50s this morning, like 56, upper 50s. So we're definitely moving into the fall weather, but I'm kind of holding on to. I mean, I actually have on long sleeves today, so even in my house, it's pretty chilly in here. But we're kind of just like, okay, no air, no heat right now. Just kind of letting the house do what it does.
Yeah. Well, but that's what October is for, right?
Hmm.
This is like the whole, I think I did a LinkedIn post about my fall reset, right? Like fall is a time, like in general, life cycles are about
Yes,
reset.
yes.
So, I always think about like how we've come to kind of expect that. So when we're not in this space or when it's like here in Minnesota and it's almost 90, I'm like, that does not feel like fall reset.
Right.
So I think it's not even just this thing of like, do I like heat or, that type of things, but like, even like physically, my body is like reset means we have these cooler temps. We have,
Yes.
less daylight. Like we are preparing for this period of kind of like reflection,
Hmm.
refreshing, whatever those things are and whatever that means to you.
I think about this time as like almost um like rest, right? What are some things you need to do in order to really grow next year, right? Like as you kind of come into the summer months where there's growth, where things are kind of blooming. What are some ways we're prepping for that bloom, right? So like it just just thinking about like that cycle and with plants, right? You just don't bloom because you've done nothing, right? Over the fall months, the winter months, but you're actively storing or, doing whatever you need to do to almost refresh yourself to get ready for a bloom. So I think about the season as like, what do I need to do to be ready,
Nice.
right? For the next phase, whether that's in a couple of months or whether that's in, 6 months.
Yeah. It's one
Hmm.
of those things that at least here in the US, like as like we are not as a society wired to do downtime.
Mm,
I
yeah.
always find it interesting how we try to really circumvent what Mother Nature already has in store for seasons and for what we need,
Yes.
and just how it leads to so many of the problems that we see, whether it's
Mhm.
burnout, keeping up the Joneses, like inefficiencies, rework, like
Yes.
all those things. Or I mean, even right now, there's so much turnover, whether it's companies that are cutting roles, or
Yes.
whether it's the you know financially with tariffs and all the other things that are factoring in. Like
Mhm.
we need these when things escalate. Like we need seasons to
Yes.
come back and like reset.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so if it's not something that you're able to find in your job, which I think plays into our topic today about like not my job, or is
Yes.
it not my job?
Right.
But like how do you create this space? Because if you don't, your body will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how many times do we say, "Man, I'm really having this headache that hasn't gone away," right? Or insert something that really your body's telling you you need to slow down. You need to take that rest.
Yeah. I'm
I was
all into my yama niyamas for the next eight
mm,
months. And of course, one of their core things is disease is dis-ease.
yeah.
It's not the fact, and granted, I know this
Yes.
is general, but right when we don't take care of ourselves, like it shows up, dis-ease shows up as disease.
Yes.
So what do we need to do and to listen to what our bodies are trying to tell us?
That is so important. That's so important. That's a good one. That's a
I-
good one. Yeah, we'll love to know your thoughts, and I mean, maybe even take a look at your LinkedIn posts about your fall reset and commenting there on like how are you resetting? this fall? How are you resting? I was just talking to someone about that too over this conference that I went to over the last week, around how we have a module specifically around recharging, right? And resetting and taking your time, just as a leader, because in order to be an intentional leader in a space, like, that's hard work. If we're not actually taking time to recharge, then we're going to burn out, right? All the things we've been talking about. And we specifically focus a module on recharging in our boot camp because it's that important.
Yeah, and I think people don't recognize that. I mean, really, when we have all that happening, like, our ability to think big and to be innovative and all those things is really minimized, because our brain is like, I will not spend extra power because I can only get through all of the things that you're throwing at me today.
Right.
So there is no space to be more innovative. There is no space to think, gosh, how could we improve this? It just keeps you stuck in a box. And I know we didn't plan this, but we do have a full harvest moon coming up tonight.
Ooh.
And there's some, if you're like in astrology, there's some really powerful things that happen when we get these full harvest moons.
Ooh,
and part of that is this reset, and like, how do you honor yourself?
Okay. This is the right time for us to be thinking about that, right? For each of us to be thinking about that. So of course we want to hear, what are you thinking about? How are you going to use this time to reset? Like, put in the chat, let us know, send us a DM, talk to us, because we want to know, right? There's some really good ideas on how to reset and different ways to reset your body, your mind, your spirit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have been kicking off with some trending, and I didn't put this in my notes. I forgot to actually add in what the topic I wanted to talk about today.
You're going to surprise me too today.
I'm going to surprise you about it, but I think it's something that you would agree with. So this past week, Abbott Elementary kicked off, and so if you have not watched Abbott Elementary, you are 100% missing out. And there's no reason why you're not watching Abbott Elementary. There's just like no reason why you're not watching it. So you need to make sure you're watching Abbott Elementary. But they just kicked off season 5, and the very first episode is that their district is making them go through team building. And so I know everyone that's listening is like, oh yeah, the mandatory team building thing that you have to do, and all the teachers have to do this mandatory team building so that they can build better relationships with each other. But in reality, it's a punishment for what happened in the previous season. And so the district is basically punishing them with this team building, right? And it has nothing to do with anything that they actually need to work on. It has nothing to do with what they actually need to do to build relationships. Their leaders, right, is really just using this as a mode of, well, you did something last year, and now we almost need to give you something to do because you went against basically district policy to get things. So instead of giving them what they actually needed, and the reason why they went against district policy, which was really to help fund their school, they're going to make them do this team building. And it got me thinking about those times that as leaders, we know that our teams are having poor communication, or they're not working well together, or we're not working cross-functionally, or insert, whatever's going on. And instead of actually listening to what our team needs, we try to input this half-day, full-day team building, or this activity that really, in theory, should help, but it's really not what your team is asking. You're really not removing barriers for them or closing gaps. And this is coming from someone that I love doing team building activities. I love getting out of the office and doing these things. And I do think it builds relationships within teams. But if you're not actually doing it for a purpose, or you're doing it to Band-Aid something, you're not going to get the type of outcome that you're looking for. So I'm curious, Jill, have you been in a situation like that where your organization or a leader is trying to use these team building activities to solve an internal conflict or a team conflict, and it's just not quite hitting the mark? Or maybe it did.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because off the top of my head, I would say no.
Ooh, that's
because number one, that would mean you'd have to be away from your job for some period of time. And that's an investment. And that takes coordination. So I think from that standpoint, no, nothing comes to mind where it was like, hey, we're all going to pause and go do this because of something that happened here. I mean,
have you ever paused to do like team building? Has there been an investment?
Yeah, we did on our team all the time. But it was very intentional about what we did.
Good.
So it wasn't like, oh my gosh, we had this happen and now we're going to do a team building on it. We had a cadence on, teams that I was leading where we're like, we're doing this, every quarter we're doing this, every month we do this. And it's not necessarily team building, but this is how we come together.
Right.
Like this is how we experience with each other.
Yeah, which is great, right? Like I feel like that's the right way of using team building, where you have this cadence, right? Like it's built in, it's intentional, like you said, like leaders are being intentional about how they bring their teams together, versus like trying to band-aid a situation. That's
but I have seen that where people are like, well, I feel like I need to get the team together, but we don't even know what we're actually going to all cover. I need to do this one thing and then we need to fill.
Yes.
And those are the ones that I stop and I go, what's the purpose here?
Right. Exactly.
Like nothing tells people that you don't value them more than when you waste their time.
Right, exactly.
So even if it comes from a place where you feel like it's good intention, if it doesn't come off with a genuine purpose and why and care, like people are going to be like, I clearly don't matter to you.
Right, exactly. And that's the difference between it's intentional, right? Intentional time with your team to learn each other, to build those bonds, to create those shared stories, right? As we grow trust, to I need to solve a problem and I'm just going to throw this in here, right? And like there's no, like you said, there's no purpose, right? Other than, I mean, sometimes it's like, oh, we're having problems with communication. Let's take this free communication quiz while we do it. And then it's like, okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, it could be totally valuable if you did that and then really had the intention of following up on it.
Right.
And expanding on it. And what does this mean? And perhaps, if you did it well, even set the stage.
Yeah.
Of like, this is why we're going to do this together.
Right, exactly. This is the meaning behind it.
Yeah. What about you? I'm curious because since this clip or this show spoke to you, how did it speak to you?
I would say I've had both experiences. One that has been pretty intentional around team building, and other times where we're doing this team building because there is some conflict on the team. And even in those situations, I would say that it turned out fine. But everyone knows why we're here, right? Like everyone knows why we're here. Everyone knows a conversation needs to happen. I just have been fortunate enough that I've been on teams that were able to have that conversation within this time. But we really didn't need to necessarily do a team building to have the conversation. We could have had the conversation in a different way. But it worked out because we were just a team that could have conversations, right? Or we had the right resources in the room to have conversations. So I guess that goes back to there's some intention around it. But to your example, the team building isn't necessarily like something that we get all the time. So we know that it's happening because there's that we're going to need to address this conflict at some point today during the team building, versus like, no, this is actually time for us to disconnect and learn about each other. This is kind of hovering until we get to it and talk to it. And then once it's talked about, then you go on and continue the rest of the day. But that's why we're together.
Which I'm even going to go out on a limb here, and some people might think this is a little bit too opinionated, but I think leaders.
It's real talk, Jill.
It is real talk, but I think leaders that do that, like that might be a moment, that might be a check that you need to check your leadership style.
Yes.
Because if you're like, oh my gosh, we see conflict, let's do team building, and maybe that'll help people get it. That's you not showing up as a leader.
Yes, I agree.
Because you should be addressing that conflict in a different way. This might be something that complements it if everybody knows it's happening, but there's probably something else that needed to have happened already.
Right.
That if you didn't do that, you've already missed the mark on being a leader.
100%.
Or the leader that you need to be to help your team.
Exactly. I think it's like an old way of thinking on how to lead.
Well,
right?
it's passive. Like, that's very Midwestern. Like, oh no, there's a problem. Let's be passive about it.
Right.
And that's not kind.
Passive, right?
That's not kind.
I agree. Very passive. Mm-hmm. I didn't even think about it being like that, but it's very passive versus saying, let's talk about what's going on. And typically if you get to a point that the organization is investing in this team building to talk about the issue, it's been going on for a while.
And there's been a lot of talk happening, but
there's
maybe
been a lot
not
of talk.
The right talk.
Exactly. And it's almost like at this head that you need to do something before it kind of gets out of control versus like having the conversations early on, right? Getting aligned early on. And in many times, like you're absolutely right. It comes down to the leader and really checking those leadership skills that, you might not have the skills to be able to manage conflict or be able to solve problems, interpersonal problems between people on your team, or you don't know how to provide them with the resources or remove barriers for them. And that just bubbles up, right? Like if you don't have the right leadership skills, it continues to bubble into an issue.
Yeah. And I would say, once again, the food industry is very prone to this because we're all about, let's go.
Yes.
And as a leader, these are the moments where you have to pause and you have to think about like, where's everybody at? What do I see happening? What do I not see happening?
Right.
Because often it's the things that aren't happening or that you don't know about that are creating these moments of friction within your team. So when we put, check-ins with our team, like genuine check-ins with our team at the bottom of our list after we get all of our to-dos done today.
Right. Yeah.
That's what gets us in this spot where all of a sudden you're like, I can't believe that bubbled up. Well, we can.
You're right.
Can that bubbled up.
Yes. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think this relates to our topic today because, I was even talking to some leaders recently and we were talking about how really checking in with your team, making sure they're on the right page. If there's conflict, to help solve it, all of that is a part of your job as a leader. And I think a lot of times leaders think, hey, I've been hired at this organization. You've been hired. We're all adults here. Go and do your job. You shouldn't need me to do these things. But in reality, as leaders, that is needed within organizations, right? Because we're human beings. We have things going on, like all of those things. There's a reason why we have team structures, right? And we're successful at team structures when we have the right skills in place. So reminding leaders that, hey, this is a part of you being a leader in an organization, and you need to prioritize time to do that versus thinking someone else is not doing their job, right? It is your job to keep them on track. It is your job to motivate them. It is your job to remove barriers and to make sure that things are running smoothly. And you need to make sure you have time on your work schedule to do that.
Yes. This is the part where I always wonder, like, will this make the cut for the podcast or will this be part that gets
well, right now,
we didn't even start to be like, welcome. Like if you haven't been here before, like welcome to Real Talk by Catalyst Food Leaders.
Yes,
We are here to have these honest conversations. Hopefully you can tell that. But it's really to lead people forward in food. We are at a point where we need to reimagine how we are leading people because the chaos that is happening, the things that we're seeing, that's because leadership is often deprioritized, leadership development. And so that's why Tia and I are here today. And we want to talk about not my job.
Yes. The words that one of the biggest red flags, I would say, if someone's saying, oh yeah, that's not my job, I know there's a culture problem here.
Yeah. And this is one of those things that like I can soapbox on because I am all for teamwork. I am all for helping out when it makes sense. But I do reject the idea that like everything extra is de facto mine to step up and be like, I can do that. I can do that.
Right. Yes.
We really need to respect this need for role clarity and equitable workload and recognition. And, occasionally asking people to step in and do things is fine, but like constantly doing that is really
Yeah.
not being respectful of like what that person needs, what the team needs. I would even say it puts the team and the organization at risk.
Yes.
And I got reasons for that.
Yeah, we want to talk about those because you're absolutely right. Like being in a team and being a team player is one thing, but taking over multiple tasks is really not. That's really not yours, right? Leads to firefighting, leads to burnout, leads to lack of clarity. All those things. It's that balance, right, of it. And I think the response is like it's not. The response is it's not my job, right? The response is who is responsible, right? Who's responsible for it, who's accountable for it, right? Who's doing the execution? I'm kind of even thinking about racy, right? Like who is a part of this task that needs to get things done. And if you find that you feel like it's always you all the time, right? Something needs to be streamlined here.
Or if it's happening all the time, then are we just living in a space of like no process, no system?
Right.
Because I think it's, there are reasons why it's good, right? When we promote a culture of flexibility and helping out when someone's maybe overloaded or overwhelmed or,
yeah,
right? We all know things happen in our personal life that drain us of energy. And we go through seasons where having an extra help is valuable. Like doing that is fantastic.
Yeah. I agree. I kind of think about this, is it my job? Is it not my job situation? I feel like it's a balance, right? And strong cultures have this balance between, I'm going to lean in here and help support, and I'm not going to step over, what my role is and where my ownership, like I understand where my ownership starts and ends. And I think strong cultures have that figured out. And weaker cultures don't, and they find themselves firefighting.
Yeah. And I think that's so important because when we already know, like to have success, we need A, B, and C to be done. If I know my core role is A and it is critical to our business, then why would we want to dilute what I'm doing and have me not focus on A?
Right.
So I think there's this part that I think often gets lost when people think about, you should never say it's not my job. Like if we don't have a strong understanding of the core parts of what we do to be successful, isn't that something that we should start considering to look at?
Absolutely. I was talking to someone and their organization wanted them to step outside of their role and help at a facility. And this person was like, no, I have a lot of stuff on my plate and our team is under-resourced. And so thinking through those actions of, okay, do I step outside of my role that's already under-resourced, right, and help in this area? What are the benefits of that? And what are the cons of that, right? And what does that even mean for the importance of your work?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good place to think about where that fits because, I think we're in this space where it's so common that job demands are much greater than the resources available. But companies still expect for you just to be like, we'll pick it up anyways.
Right, exactly.
And that's not fair.
That's not fair.
No, so I'm curious. That's just honestly disrespectful.
It is, right?
It's just disrespectful. And that tells a lot about your culture if you're like, well, you're just supposed to pick it up.
Right, exactly. It's disrespectful to the work that you do on a daily basis, right? It's disrespectful to your time and what's important, right? It's like, oh, my thing is most important.
Yeah, and I think about, so, there's this kind of the negative side. We'll definitely talk about the positive side of this too. But, I think that part of that also leads to that whole like scope creep on your role.
Yes.
And before you know it, you're off doing all these other things. And this is typically where someone's like, well, someone left and we're not going to backfill their role.
Oh, yes.
Right? Or we're going to start a new project or a new process, but you have to do it and just add it on to everything you're doing. That's become so much of the norm.
Yes.
That it really has taken people away from having a pause to be like, as a human, I'm at 140% capacity just at work. Right. Clearly, I am over I'm over capacity.
Right, exactly.
And we can't ask people to take that on long term and expect us to have a good culture and people that have pride in what we're doing in our
Hmm.
company.
And we see it, right? We see it across the industry where
Mm-hmm.
people are burnt out, they're overworked, they're leaving roles, right? They're not staying. I love it how organizations think about it as like loyalty, right? Loyalty when there's really no loyalty back to say, like, do I have clarity in my role? Do I have the resources that I need? Right? If
No.
I'm going to step in for an indefinite amount of time to a role, like, you're not resourced appropriately.
Yeah, and I think that leads just to the whole like people feel taken advantage of.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You feel taken advantage of, whether it's your time, your title, your money. I mean, like they hired me to do something for X amount of work and now we just piled everything else on. I'm not doing the same job.
Right.
But
Right.
yet you're still going to just pay me the same, and I also am working longer hours probably.
Right, exactly. No pay increase, no type of flexibility,
Mhm.
any of those things. And I want to call out that the things that we're talking about, where you even have this mindset of like, I really should not be stepping in, it really has nothing to do with being a team player, right? Like all these things, because
Not at all.
if it was a team player, then it would be, hey, I need you to move over here, and this is how your pay structure is going to shift,
Mhm.
right? Or I'm sure each of us have taken a role where it's like, hey, I need you to step in and do this, but like you have more flexibility around, your day or whatever happens to be, right? Like where it's like those things might need to happen, but there's always something that makes sense that's equitable, for the way that you work in the way, right, in your life, even outside of work. It's when you start to add things, and I'm going to add this to the already grocery list that you already have, and it's no longer equitable. That's when really it has nothing to do with being a team player and everything to do with how do I take advantage, right, of the resources that I have left, right?
Yeah.
Really left.
And I sports analogies are so easy to use, but obviously we're in total football season right now.
Yes.
So just think this would be like, hey, quarterback, while you're like making plays and getting ready to like scope, see who you're going to throw to, how about you also come over here and do some blocking for us?
Right, exactly.
You got a little free time while you're just looking around. Like nobody would ever do that. And
Right,
even if
exactly.
somebody is changing roles, like, hey, I'm going to be a running back this week versus I'm going to be a wide receiver, like two
Mhm.
different roles. I don't play both of them at the same time.
Right, exactly.
And so I think
Exactly.
it's also understanding, like, you may have utility players, you may have people who are like need to be in one role all the time. But I think as a leader, you have to understand that and
Yes.
scope roles to do that.
Yes. Yes. Scope them fairly, right? And it's not a hey, I need you to move into this role next week, right? And it's not, hey, I need you to do this for a period of time and we can't tell you when it's over. It's actually intentional. I feel like this is like the word of the day, even though I feel like this is like catalyst word around leadership, right? Is being intentional. Like you have to be intentional about how you're shifting someone, how long, how is this beneficial, right? What are you going to do with your other work that's also meaningful? How are all these things going to play if you are going to give someone extra work, and being clear,
Yeah.
right? Being clear around.
And I think as a leader, once again, the passive way is like, hey, can you step in and help over here?
Mm-hmm.
If somebody says, no, I really can't, like as a leader, because you are asking, like you need to understand the difference of like, did I just create a space where now I'm going to judge them as not a team player?
Right. Yeah.
Versus if you need them in a spot, be like, I'm going to need you for the next 2 hours or 2 weeks to help with this. What does that
Mm-hmm.
look like for you?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also understanding that, because I think we even set ourselves up to be like, I don't know if they're a team player because they said no.
Right. Yeah.
Like as a leader, you need to be open to understand when you ask people for help, they may not be in a position to help.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And
And it
also,
doesn't mean that they're uncooperative or they are
right.
anti-team. It just means my plate. Well, I don't know. You're going to have to ask them. What does that
Mhm.
mean?
Right, exactly. And I feel like if you are having this one conversation with them and you're asking, and you've made the decision that they need to step into this role and they're saying no, and this is the first conversation that you've had with them, you skip some steps as a leader, right? Like you really haven't done your job to figure out, is this the best person for the role in terms of availability, right? Their availability, right? And how they're going to shift their work, right?
Yeah.
It's the times where it's like, oh, I think Jill will be able to do this. And then you go to Jill and you're like, no, actually, no, I got a lot on my plate, right? I actually haven't been a leader in this situation.
Oh. And I think this goes to even the whole power over. Because when you ask someone who is a direct report, they're going to feel compelled to do this extra work, whether they have space to do it or not.
Yes.
And as a leader, you have to be mindful that that's just going to further drain them and probably have, some negative feelings, maybe even behaviors around, I feel compelled that I always have to do this extra work.
Yes. Yes. I've been at organizations where where it's like, you can only tell the organization no a certain amount of times. Has anyone ever said that to you before?
No.
Yes, I've been in organizations
I think you feel it. I think even if somebody hasn't told you that, there is something around there. Like you can, even let's say invites to a place, you can only tell them no so many times before they stop inviting.
Right, before you stop having these opportunities, so make sure that your no is like worth it or whatever, and it's like, no, if this is not the best choice for me or my career or what I have going on right now, like you should be able to say no. And as a leader, you should know if this fits with what I have going on, right? Like you should already be in tune with your people that you understand that.
Yeah, because I think the other part is, I've worked with people who they're the first ones to be like, oh, I'm going to volunteer to go do that, because then they don't have to do the work that they're supposed to be doing.
Facts. Yes. Yes.
They're eager to go do the thing that seems more fun or shiny or different, because then their stuff probably has to get picked up by somebody else.
Right. And their team is like,
as a leader, you got to be really mindful of this like unfair work distribution, and then that as well. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that they are. I think we have these lenses on that make us think, oh my gosh, they're such a team player. They always volunteer. But really, are they really such a great team player?
Yeah, because they're not actually getting their work done if they're always doing someone else's work, right? Right. Well, is there times where you should not say it's not my job?
Are there times where you should not say it? Oh, I would say absolutely. Like, you know what? I think right when we're in crisis, when we're in the middle of a crisis, like in food, that recall comes to mind, or material, whatever, human safety thing. Like there are going to be things where you're like, we need to pitch in and it's all hands on deck.
Yes.
Absolutely. Granted, I'm going to caveat that with there is an appropriate, you should be mindful of the time period. Right? We've seen recalls that some of those go on forever and ever and ever. And that just is burnout.
Yes. Yeah.
So if that is in the future, everybody hands on deck right now might be the now moment. But as a leader, you also have to think, can we sustain this for 2 months, 6 months?
Right.
When do we need to be out of this massive firefighting, all hands on deck mode?
Right, exactly. And I agree. It's like when you're in crisis mode, I feel like that's when we need to be asking the question, okay, what is my job in this? Versus not my job. Like how do I help? What is my job in this? And like you said, there's a strong need for leadership in crisis. And part of that leadership is to understand how long is this going to last, and how can we, are we going to burden our people too long? Yeah. I think another piece of the leadership is who does own what, right? Like there's many times that there's a crisis, I'm like, I'm here to help. And the leader's like, I love it that you're available. We really don't need any more hands. Be on standby, right? Okay, great, right? They don't need me. There's times where it's like, hey, we need all hands on deck, and this is what I need you to do. Like those are strong leaders that's able to really understand who needs to own what, who is running each part of it, so that you'll know exactly during this crisis what your job is. And what someone else's job is.
And I think people naturally have a tendency to be like, oh, how can I help? I think as humans, that's part of this being in community together. When we sense something's not going well here, I think we if we are mindful to just even pay attention a little, we'll probably feel that we are drawn to like this. And
Yes.
what can we do? So I think, especially in those moments, leaders need to be mindful because it is easy to overload, like you said. And
Mm-hmm.
even understanding, like, you know, like you said, we'd love for you to do this, but we need you to keep doing this.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
really keep your eye on that, keep doing that, help people through this, and then we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do some work over here.
Right.
It's not
Right.
because we don't want to include you. It's because we need this to happen while we're doing this.
Exactly.
Because I think sometimes we start pulling people. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
right? We see this. You start calling in the plant all the time for information and
Right.
all over, and they're trying. And but yet at the same time, you're also like, why are we shorting product, or why are things not getting done on time? And you're like, because I can't do all of it.
Exactly. We're bothering them.
Yeah. So you're going to need some people who you're like, you need to keep like business as usual over here, and then we need to figure some of that out over here.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And that's important. And that comes down to the leader, right?
Mhm.
Making sure that there's not chaos happening around in the middle of crisis, right?
Yeah.
That it's planful, that it's mindful, right? That you have all bases covered. And, you know, just that whole piece of, you said it earlier, like empowerment and ownership. Like those are the things that leaders should be thinking about when they come into the situations that someone's saying, you know, not my job, or you might feel like that you need to add onto someone else's job. You
Yeah.
know, just making sure that you have those clear things, and you being intentional, right? Like I'm going to throw that out again. Like you're intentional about the work that you're giving your team.
Yeah. Let's see, another time that I could think of this potentially being like, yep, I can take that on for some amount of time is, let's say, like a maternity, paternity, FMLA, like
Oh
person needs
yes.
to be out for some amount of time where
Mm-hmm.
you may be like, okay, for the next 12 weeks, for the next, I don't know, this is where you have to also have conversation. Is 6 months? Can I do this extra work for six
Right.
months?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As a leader, do we want people doing this much extra work for 6 months?
Right, exactly.
I think
What's
people,
shifting?
once again, are willing to help take things on so they don't fall through the cracks and help kind of span those areas, as long as it's not, oh, now that we just finished that one, now can you do it again here? Oh, and now can you do it again here? Now can
Oh,
you do it again
yes.
here?
Yes, yes, exactly. You make sure you're not getting sucked into this whirlwind,
Yeah.
right? And being clear. I think that's another key word in this conversation, is being clear. Leaders being clear, but also you being clear on, okay, what do I need to do over these next 6 months, even a year, right? Or 4 weeks, whatever happens to be. And am I going to get wrapped back up into it, the next time or the next time? Especially when the problem is, I'm going to use the word crisis, but something that's really just firefighting, and it keeps coming up because the organization refuses, or, people in the organization refuse to put investment into the type of resources that they need.
Mm.
Right. So you're always going to fall into this. You're going to be here the same time next year. And are they going to pull on you to do the same thing? And I feel like as leaders, it's important for us to be eliminating those situations that we need to move our resources around.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Makes me think of foreign material. I've told that story before. Like coming from the meat industry, like we had foreign material in one plant. I felt like it was every day, but
Yeah.
at least every week. And there comes a point where it's like this, we pull so many people from doing like what needs to be done just to firefight. Like we need to do something different. I am so grateful that we had teams that were like, we agree. It wasn't easy necessarily, but right, like taking time to, even for those situations where you feel like, oh my gosh, they're all different and the details are always different. There are still things you can put in place to help people manage it easier, better, and less disruptively.
Yes. 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 If you feel like, and we talk about this in boot camp, right? We have a whole module around firefighting, where it's like, how do you eliminate these fires that keep popping up? Firefighting isn't supposed to keep going, right? Like that's just like the nature of even the word, right? Fires are going to come up. You're going to have to do some firefighting, at some point. But if you're fighting the same fires, then at that point, this is just the house you live in.
Yeah.
Right.
It is burning.
Yeah, your house is burning, right? And I think like when many times people feel like things are being piled on their to-do list by someone else when they live in a culture of firefighting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to throw this in here, but I'm curious, Tia, like, do you feel like this phrase of not my job is different or approached differently based on generational, like
Ooh,
generations?
100%. I do. I definitely do. I feel like older generations would never use this phrase of not my job.
Right. Because I think that goes back to the Mercer report of,
Uh-huh.
right, like what people, like employee needs. Like that
Mm-hmm.
was total loyalty contract. They were
Yeah.
told, everything's in my job. I'm going to have a paycheck. The company will take care of me. I take
Mhm.
care of them. They take care of me.
Right. Exactly.
Like
Exactly. And it was all
broken,
for
rip
anything and
that contract up.
right.
That does not exist anymore.
Exactly. And the generations that are coming in, right? Like they don't have that contract. First of all, companies are not as loyal, right? To, if any, loyal to people coming in, right? There is no loyalty that the
Yeah.
organization is giving. And so we've seen it play out over the generations where, newer generations will say, not my job. Right? They will say, no, I'm not. Yeah, like I have something to do after work today. So I can't stay 2 more extra hours because I actually have something to do after
Yeah.
work.
And I don't need you judging me, whether that's I'm going to binge watch a show or I have an important appointment. Like
Right.
I could
It's
care. I don't care.
exactly. It's my thing. It's my time,
Yeah.
right? Like
And
it's
and I always like to remind people, like being part of that generation that probably was still on the edge of that loyalty contract, like we are the ones who helped people now know these next generations, like don't do that.
yes.
Because
Yes.
we got sick. I mean, me and like the older generation, right? Like got sick of being taken advantage of. And,
Mhm.
like, wow, mandatory overtime again. And hey, it's Thursday. You get to work Saturday too. Make sure you're
Right.
here because it counts. There's no PTO open.
Yes.
Like we went through all those things and had a company kind of driving our life.
Mhm.
And we told our kids and, the next generations, like, don't do that. Like
Right.
life matters. Your life
Exactly.
matters.
Hmm. And then we've also watched, like, I'm a millennial, and we've seen older generations work like that. And then we went through the 2008, recession,
Mhm.
and companies laid out off people who were really close to retirement. And like you worked all these years, and there's nothing at the end. When before there was plenty at the
Mhm.
end, right? But now there's really nothing at the end. And even now, I mean, younger generations, they don't have any of those things. They don't have pensions, they don't have any of those things. So there's really nothing at the end of the tunnel
There's no
if I
incentive.
work if I work this way. I met someone recently that worked for an organization for 33 years. She started on the floor, she worked her way up to a quality manager role. And then as the organization was sort of shifting people, they let her go. And literally the way that she described it is that I worked there for 33 years, and at the end, I had nothing.
How sad is that?
How sad is that, right?
That's but I think this is also goes to culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk a lot about organizational culture, food safety culture, and right. I mean, while they are this is a space where they're very connected, even though they have some very different characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
But we keep saying like we value people,
Yeah.
that we honor people, but when we don't respect their no,
Right.
when we
Yeah.
don't respect that they're putting boundaries in, when
Mm-hmm.
we don't respect that they're like, no, that's not good for me, even if it's good for you.
Right. Exactly.
Like that's part of the culture we're building. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think really thinking about how we respond when someone goes, no, I'm not, I thank you, but I'm not stepping in for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's our job as leaders to shift, to support that, right? Like we know how generations are shifting, right? We know that newer generations, they're just not going to take on that much extra work as they should not, right? How are we shifting as leaders to support that, right? To make sure that we're clear on ownership, to make sure that we, are clear on direction and what belongs where. And if we need to shift during crisis, what does that look like? What time period and what task do I need you to do? And what tasks are you going to take off my plate, right?
Yes.
What are you going to take off my plate to be able to support this? All of those are conversations we should be having as leaders to support, our teams. And I wouldn't even say the newer generations coming in, because guess what? The older generations want to spend time with their families too, right? They too want time off. They too want to enjoy life outside of work or do whatever it is they want to do, right? And they might be in the mindset of like, well, this is what I've always done. But many of us have seen that shift, that once you start leading from the standpoint of I value your time here at work and at home, right? Like they'll be like, okay, maybe retirement does sound good. And you're like, well, I didn't say retire. I said to take your PTO, don't leave me, just take your PTO. But that's important because like there's life outside of work. There's other things that you find valuable. And as a leader, strong leaders understand and care about all aspects of that person at work and at home. You cannot just turn it off.
No.
You can't turn it off.
I know you kind of rolled out the top. So Tia likes to surprise me with the topics. Oh, gosh, you guys, this introvert here who likes to plan. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. But since it did come out about an hour, 2 hours ago, I did kind of jot down a few things.
Ooh, what do you have? Tell me.
Well, no, actually kind of along the lines, because I see, we're getting kind of closer to the end, but there were 5 things that I kind of jotted down. Of course, my pal ChatGPT helped me refine my ideas a little bit better. But it was kind of these things for guiding principles, like when you are asked, like, can you take this on? Or as a leader, are you asking someone to take it on? Mm-hmm. So I'm curious what you think of these. The first one was to really pause and say, is this truly urgent or strategic?
That's a good one.
Because how often are we like doing busy work?
Right, exactly.
Should we be doing this extra work?
Yeah, is it possible to let it sit? Because it's not even important to what we have going on. You're just used to someone always doing it, or someone maybe threw it on your plate. But to ask that question, right? Is it urgent? Is it strategic? Should we be doing this work right now? Is important.
Yes. Let's see. Another one that came up was you just talked about this capacity constraints.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Does your team have the capacity, or not? Right? Does your person have the capacity?
And if you're asking me, I should be like, well, hey, I can take this on if then this is put on lower priority or goes away.
Mm-hmm.
Totally fair to say. Or I can take that on, but then this deadline's not going to be met.
Right. Exactly. Yep. That's a very good one.
Yeah. Another one that I thought was good is, especially for those longer term ones, even short term, like think about recognition and compensation.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that, right? Like, are you compensating me for this extra work? Right. And recognition, right? Like how many times do people take over extra work and then at the end of the year, like there's no promotion, right? There's nothing there to show that you did this extra work other than great job. Oh, the company hasn't done well this year. So it's like, why did I take on this extra work if the organization's not doing well and it's not going to show in my bonus or show in my promotion track?
Right. Like that is just giving away your time for free.
For real.
So if you want to volunteer at your work, like totally say yes to things. But if you're like, I didn't sign up to volunteer at work, then you might want to think about, where do I say no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good one. We hadn't really talked about even the recognition. Even in like when I think about recognition in this piece, in this topic, I'm thinking about like, how do I get a promotion, right? Yeah. Like, cool to say my name up on stage and stuff, but like, how does this reflect to me actually like getting a different title or getting a bump in pay?
Mm-hmm. Or being eligible for a role you maybe wouldn't consider me for before.
Right. Exactly.
I think there definitely needs to be some conversation around that. Mm-hmm. And here's the reality, folks. If people are like, oh my gosh, we need you to do extra work, I can't imagine they're ready to fire you because they have nobody to do the work.
Right.
So why not ask?
Exactly. Have the conversation, right? You will not get if you do not ask.
Yeah. And if they fire you, then maybe you are like, I get there are things we do to tolerate situations because of other things. I am not trying to discredit that, but then like, let's see how we can help you find a role that fits you.
Yes, absolutely.
I think also the whole like rotating extra work. Like, I think it's we go to the same person all the time because they like to take things on, but like, then that also doesn't allow for development experiences for other people.
Yes.
And so I think even considering that, right, wouldn't that be important?
Yes, yes. I feel like that's being intentional, right? Being intentional about who you need, like in this mode of crisis, that it makes sense that someone needs to take on some extra work. Who are you going to? Is it the same person over and over just because they say yes? Or are you actually being intentional, being strategic, right, about who's taking over the work so that they can grow in what they know in their career, or, you know, whatever it happens to be. Like you said, open up even new job opportunities for people.
Yeah. And I think it also, especially as we are coming to this space, this season of end of year performance reviews and all, I cannot remember how many times I've been told you get, you know, if the scale is 1 to 5, you get a 3. You have to go above and beyond to get a 4. And, you know, to get a 5, you have to be walk on water.
Right.
And I really want leaders to pause in this moment and think about how we are rewarding people and how we are viewing people, because we get blinders on and we get biased thinking busy work of extra work means they're going above and beyond.
Right. Yeah.
That may be true in situations, but it also may be like, am I taking care of my own yard before I'm busy over here mowing the neighbors?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. I think that organizations have used that, right, to try to get extra work out of people, when in reality, it's just not the best path.
Yeah, it's just being disrespectful to people.
Exactly.
Like, either I do my job well and I do it fully and I do it really well, but like now I have to do extra to like get a better rating. That makes sense.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Right. Once again, the system that companies show that they are not loyal to you or respectful.
Exactly. 100%. Yes.
And I'm okay saying that because like I've been in there. And yes, there are times I have been even a willing participant thinking it would get me to the next spot or get some of these things, or maybe not fully understanding how I was contributing to this.
Yeah.
Full disclosure. But when we know better, we do better.
Exactly.
Thank you.
It's true, you know, and many of us don't know really how that structure works unless you really dig to understand, you know, like, why is it, am I always getting 3s, or I can't quite get a 5, or, you know, until you really learn, because a lot of that, and this could be a whole other topic, but a lot of that stuff is kind of like hush hush quiet behind, like Wizard of Oz, behind the curtain. Because like you said, it really is not rewarding everyone, right? It kind of shifts around who's being rewarded, and that shift is based on who the organization feels like should be promoted that year.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that could be a whole nother show, right? Because those systems are meant to, 1, keep money in the company's pocket, and then 2, have a select few, and I'm talking to you people with the 9-box ratings, or those type of things. Yeah, I am, because those are the ones where we're going to like pick a few, you know, special people who we're going to help kind of keep in our pockets. And I know it's with good intent, like to develop people, but you also got this whole big pool of people that are showing up every day to make things happen. Reward them too.
And it's not just important because they're there, like they're shaping your culture, you know. And this is someone who, you know, I'm sure you're very similar, that, you know, I was probably rated high on the 9 block, but it doesn't mean that other people should not get opportunities, that we should not be bringing people up, because like, guess what? Your high performers also have to work in your culture.
Yeah.
Right? Like
there isn't enough averages between these to make the entire thing shift well.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's the reality. Like the math will never be in your favor. So everybody's got to be on this path together. And I think that comes down to this last one, which is really this need and push for leadership support in clarifying boundaries and expectations.
Yes. That's what we've been talking about, right? Like as a leader, how do you gain the skills that you're able to effectively empower others, effectively be clear, and have true ownership in the work that you're doing, but also helping other people understand what they own. And that's not easy to do.
No, but it's not insurmountable.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, even the other day, Amy, if you're listening, right, we
Hey,
had a little conversation. Amy Parks, she's a big supporter for us, but she was like, you know what? We had to go through the expectation sheets again,
oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? I love that she's very mindful of like, how do we go through this and not just job description-y, like
Mm-hmm.
get into the details of what's actually expected,
Mm-hmm.
because that's when as a leader we can be more responsible about workload
Yeah.
and helping people really succeed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Amy's great because I mean we've shared her story a few times. Like she
Mhm.
continues to prioritize her own personal development and leadership development. And so for her to think, okay, we need to go back through expectations, she's in this process of making sure she's continually developing herself. So she's remembering, I need to go back and do this with my team, right? And we all know the people that's in leadership that takes this seriously, like you have to revisit these things with your group because we're human, right? We like slide, like we want to be in chaos. Like our whole body kind of slides towards chaos. And so as leaders, it's important for us to line things back up. And so you might have to go back and do expectations. You might have to do them a little bit differently. And so, Amy really does have a great story when it comes around leadership and um, how she prioritizes her own development. And you see that through the people that she works with and the teams that she builds and the cross-functional relationships she's building. And she has the tools, right? She has the skills and
Mhm.
the tools to reset, right, her team. Right.
Mhm.
Even in, as we think about, we talked a few times, like these moments of crisis where people need to add things on their plate, right? How are you setting those expectations around it?
Mhm.
Thank you for
Whew.
sharing that.
Yeah. Well, I know that was a lot. I know we just have a couple minutes left. So, I've been wanting to ask at each time we get together. Like
Mm-hmm.
after talking about this today, what's one leadership belief you've let go of and why?
Mm. You know, I feel like I've always been pretty good about not taking too many things on. I feel like I mentioned this a little earlier that, I worked at an organization that saying no, right, might prevent you from doing whatever, like, so you don't want to say no, but I have turned down things. And I would say that there's not really a belief that I let go, but working through saying no and having had said no in the past, I feel like your confidence grows
Mm-hmm.
and it helps you really get clear for your own self on what type of work you want to do and how to protect your time. And so there might be some people listening that's like, I don't know if I can say no. I don't know if I can protect my time in that way. I would say try it, do it. And the more that you do it, the more it will become comfortable for you. But I think it also will show people how to treat you. We kept using the word like even disrespectful. When you let people know that they can't disrespect your time, they'll start treating you accordingly.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. And that's actually kind of related to the one I have. And actually, as I share mine, I'm also going to put up our freebie. This is the culture change starts with leadership, which really goes with today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So grab it with your QR code. But when I think about a leadership belief that I still work on, right?
Yeah.
But it's because there's this innate, I want to help out. And I have to really pause and think, does this honor me?
Yes. Yeah.
Because only you can answer that question. And I think that sometimes gets lost in all of the quick movements and decisions that organizations hope to make, which
Mm-hmm.
are really then, before you know it, you're further away from who you wanted to be and where you wanted to be than you thought.
Yeah.
And so I think it definitely is powerful to pause and be like, how does this honor me?
Yes. That I feel like that's a great question to ask yourself. in anything, right? That's the first question. How does this honor me? Yeah. So get our free assessment tool. It's an awesome tool for you to think about culture, where you should start around culture change, and how leadership can help you with that.
Mhm.
So download. And then, of course, we want you to share, like, hearing this conversation, what are you going to shift? Right? Knowing what you know now. And I love the Maya Angelou quote of, once you know better, you do better. Like, what are you going to do better now?
Mhm.
Right? What are you going to shift?
Yeah. So if today's Real Talk sparks something for you, share it with someone else who's in food, who's leading with heart and grit. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you're notified every time. Subscribe to our LinkedIn page. You'll know there. You can even join our email list. You can subscribe on our calendar. There's a lot of ways for you to stay in the know so that you can catch the next conversation.
Because we'll be back next Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central Time.
Yep.
So we'll see you next week and through the week as you follow us.
Yep. Make it a good week, everyone.
Bye, everyone.